Hello, everybody. Look at that. I'm just giving you salute after salute. I'm throwing them virtually through my webcam at you. My name is Chris. What's this show? I call it the Weekly Spinnerack because we're going to talk about the comics that came out this week. I was able to get a pair of comics at Emerald City Comic Con this week that actually aren't on store shelves until this Wednesday. So we'll talk a little bit about them. And one of them is a little exciting because while we've got a lot of news and reviews and maybe even art to do tonight, we also have a special guest. A guest who I will say is making a triumphant return to comics after working in Hollywood for the last 10 years. We're going to bring him on. We've got a special guest today, folks.
Hey, Chris. How's it going?
Derek Kirk Kim.
Hi,
it has been a pleasure getting to know you a tiny bit over the last couple weeks online, and now we got to see each other face to face. How are you?
I'm sorry I have to copy you, but the double salute.
There we go. A double salute. I appreciate it.
I do that all the time. I do it to my girlfriend all the time. Double salute.
It doesn't mean anything at all. It was really nice getting to see you at Emerald City Comic Con this week. So I was just curious, how was the convention for you? Have you been doing conventions at all lately?
This is the third convention I've been. I started going again at the end of last year, and it was really fun. My book launched there, so it launched 3 days ahead of comic book stores.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And Image was generous enough to let me launch it there, and we gave a copy to every person that came to the Image panel. So it was.
Did you? That's a great idea.
Yeah, it was really exciting, and but I did get sick like right before the convention started, and I was this close to canceling it because I felt really sick, and actually my voice normally isn't this sexy, but I have a really terrible sore throat right now. But I can't. I have to muscle through it to be here with you, Chris, because I want to just take a little. So I don't mean to embarrass you, but I'm a huge fan of your channel, both comic tropes and pros and cons.
I'm so embarrassed.
I never miss it. I never miss it. Yours is the way that. Oh, thank you so much. Your show is the way I keep track of the comics news.
I mean, I'm just basically an aggregator who's riffing on this stuff, but it's fun for us and like all these great people that like show up in the live chat to just talk comics. But thank you so much. You know, and
wait, no, you don't get away that easily. So then I discovered comic tropes early when I was first starting The Last Mermaid. And so as I was drawing, I would literally just have your playlist like playing automatically, just one video to the next. Yeah. So like I've spent so much time with you drawing. I feel like I know you. It's so strange to be on this side now, like actually being next to you and talking to you, and you're like actually responding to me. Really cool.
It is kind of funny, like I bet that there are like people in the comics industry like this that feel this when they go to conventions, but there is sort of like this interesting parasocial relationship where I do get reactions at this point. It is kind of funny, like, especially at Comic-Con. But overall, it's fantastic. It's fantastic because, I just love talking about comics. It's my favorite medium. I'm excited to talk to you specifically, Derek, because of a couple things. You have made comics in a lot of different formats. And you kind of started early on. I would say you're honestly like one of the earlier people to have done online comics. That's what you were doing before anything else, right? The online comics thing?
I did have a little stint in print before that, but I was actually, I was one of the few, I was kind of like in that group that like Scott McGlath was championing when he was really getting into online comics. So I was really lucky. I was really lucky that I was part of that initial group, because if I done it now, I mean, I would just be buried in the sea of amazing online comics now. But at the time, I think, thank you, Joe. But now, but at the time, I think it was pretty unique that not only was it a webcomic, but it was a subject matter that comics normally hadn't seen. So I think I got really lucky.
Yeah. And I think that like there's just a lot of interesting things you can do playing with the format, which we're really starting to see, especially out of South Korea. Do you still
Mhm.
have family or friends back there, by the way?
Actually, wait, hold on one second. Let me just pop over to this bookshelf right here.
What-
Uh, uh, so this, I actually have a cousin in Korea who's a manga, also a professional manga artist, or manhwa, sorry, manhwa artist and
That's
writer.
amazing.
Yeah, so she does this book. It's called Tamna the Island. I'm gonna mess up the title, but it's like Tamna the Island, something like that. Sorry, it's in Korean. So, yeah, it actually got made into a Korean drama.
Oh,
Actually,
did it really?
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
seeing that happen so much even here though. Like even here, some of those webtoons are getting turned into Netflix shows left and
yeah,
right. Um,
exactly.
it's just interesting, like you were a little bit of a pioneer there, but like we're definitely seeing like I think that that's going to be a big component of comics moving forward. I don't know, like when you were doing it, were you like doing it to sort of build an audience to get opportunities? Were you trying to monetize it? I don't, it's a while back now. It's like over 20 years, so it's like hard for me to sort of remember. But what were your goals when you were doing that?
Yeah, at the time it was just uh, I wasn't getting much traction in the print world.
Mm.
And so I kind of just gave up. I quit. I got my first publishing deal actually when I was still a junior in college with Antarctic Press. The first work
Oh,
I
okay.
ever did was actually like a cover and some backup stories for Ninja High School.
That's so cool. Ben Dunn's book. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I worked on that, and then I pitched my own series to them. It's called Cell, and then they published that. So, but you're young, you don't know what's going on. Like you think you're gonna make a living now just doing your monthly comic or whatever, and it was a rude awakening that there's just not much money in comics, especially at that time. It was like right after the collapse, I think, of the bubble.
Right. It was. Absolutely. You're right. Yeah, the
Yeah,
90s, like everybody was still recovering, and then into that world came like, a new way to potentially put ourselves out there. It was just interesting. I mean, I definitely remember that the first thing I read by you was definitely Same Difference.
yeah.
And am I remembering right? I'm pretty sure I am. Was that funded in part by the Zurich grant?
Not when I was first serializing it on the web.
Not when you were first serializing.
Yeah. So I was just I was teaching English as my main in Korea as my
Oh,
main yeah as my main job, and then on the side when I wasn't working, I would work on Same Difference. I keep posting like a few panels every day,
yes.
and then eventually when it the story ended, I pitched it to the Zurich grant, and then I was lucky enough to get it. So yeah,
I love that. I mean, if I was ever, lucky enough to have one of these YouTube channels that really took off, like that's what I would want to like do in part, like is have a grant out there to help give rise to new voices. But yeah, like you were making a nice splash there in the early 2000s. I mean, I because I remember you got the Eisner for I forget exactly how they phrased it, but like,
yeah,
artist that deserves more attention, something like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
pretty cool. That's pretty
yeah.
cool to like
So
all.
really,
What was that like? You're telling us that, you were sort of laboring in relative obscurity and working a day job, and then all of a sudden, like, you were getting like a Harvey and an Eisner and like all this like attention. Like what was that? What was that like? Most of us don't know what that experience is like.
yeah, it was too much. I don't know what the hell, how the
Well, you were
hell it
young,
happened,
weren't
but
you? You were
but
like early 20s, right?
no, actually, I was a little older.
Mm.
Maybe
Okay.
late 20s, maybe late
Okay. Fair
20s.
enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, I in retrospect, I kind of wish maybe one of the awards I would have been called to give me some encouragement. But getting all three, like it, I don't know, it just put all this pressure in my own head that nobody
Did
was
it?
putting on me, but in my own head, like, oh, the next one's gonna be so good and like better than the last or whatever. And it like really went into my head, and they kind of messed with me. But of course, at the time, it was so exciting. And I remember at I got the Eisner, and then I got the Ignatz, and then at the Harveys, I was nominated again. And I remember when they were saying the nominees, I was literally saying in my head, "Please don't pick me, please don't," because I didn't want that much pressure. Like I didn't want that much attention
Oh
on
my
me.
goodness.
You know
You're
what I
so
mean?
humble.
So, and then it's not humble; it's just my own subconsciousness. But I remember uh, uh, Jeffrey Brown was nominated in the same category as me at
Right.
the Harvey, which was for Clumsy. And I was praying, I was hoping that he would get it so that I wouldn't have to go up there, but I ended up getting it.
Well,
but I mean, not that I'm complaining, of course not. It was amazing, but it did kind of mess with my head, I think, a little bit, and probably like fed into my ego too much or something. I don't know. But,
hey,
because I had a hard fall. Because I had a hard fall right after that, like for a few years, which is why I went out of comics. I went through a really kind of like low point in my life after that. After the first few books the next few books didn't sell that much, and then my series for First Second Tune, it didn't sell well enough for it to continue.
I love Tune.
Oh, thanks so much, Chris.
Yeah.
And I did the first
two volumes,
books.
right?
That's right. I did 2, and then there was supposed to be a 3rd and a 4th to finish the story, but it didn't sell well enough that that they could finish it for Second, which I totally understand. But it put me in this real like depressed place. Like I was really depressed, and I just felt like a real failure. None of the other books were doing well either. And then so I kind of had to retreat to animation to make a living.
That's interesting that you say that, like retreat, because a lot of us, of course, are thinking, well, hey, like that's where the money is. I guess I had it in my head that, you used comics to launch yourself into this other thing. But I mean,
no, not at all.
That's not really the case.
No. If Tune had worked out, I would have just kept doing comics. I mean, I was still doing some film stuff on top of Tune.
Right.
I did a web series that was kind of a spin-off of Tune, but that also like nothing happened with that either. So it was like a double whammy. Like I went all in on the Tune universe, and it just completely collapsed. So yeah, but it's okay.
I believe that like those ideas can always sort of be like revisited at least. But yeah, you've been working in animation for like good 10 years, working for all the big companies, right? The Disneys and the Cartoon Networks and Warner Brothers and such. I mean, I think everybody here has at least seen something like Adventure Time. Probably a lot of people here would have seen your work on things like Axe Cop, of course, being a comic adaptation.
That was actually a really fun one because the art director was one of my best friends. He's a cartoonist named John Pham, but he was also the art director on that show. And it was a blast to work on that one.
That's so cool. I'm seeing not everybody that's jumping in knows exactly what I'm talking about yet, but folks, just to recap, I'm talking with Derek Kirk Kim about his new comic, The Last Mermaid. And what I was about to sort of ask was just sort of, obviously comics has a bit of collaboration, but even at the most, you might only be dealing with like 5 or 6 people to make a book or something. Whereas animation, you've got tons of people like, producers and designers and directors and writers and of course, all sorts of animators. Talk us through, like, was it a completely different environment to move into all that collaboration, or was it seamless? Was it smooth and felt organic? What would that be like?
No, not at all. This is totally different. Like when you're doing comics, it's sort of like being a monk,
Yeah.
Isolated.
Solitary.
Yeah, solitary. It's very meditative, kind of in a way. And then when you're in animation or just film in general, it's very collaborative. There's always people. And in a big corporation like Disney, you're in an office cubicle, so there's always people around. And yeah, it's like night and day. And both have their plus and minuses. I love being part of a team like that. That's really fun. Being part of a team and you're all working together to make something. And like, in comics, you never have that moment where like, a big group of you that work together, screen it together, and you're all excited. And, you don't have that kind of triumphant moment, right? But at the same time, in comics, you have complete creative control. And there's no notes to deal with or different opinions that might cause fights. And most of the time, it just causes great things, great collaborative things. But there are times, of course, you're going to have friction with things. And so, yeah, it's a totally different thing. But I actually genuinely love both.
Okay.
Ideally, if I could, I would love to do something that's collaborative and then solo and then collaborative and solo. So you can go back and forth and not get stuck in one.
I can understand that.
But I am. Oh.
No, I didn't mean to talk over you. I was just saying, like, I love sort of like, drawing and stuff, but if you're going to tell, like, I used to do some like self-published, more indie stuff a good 20 years ago, and very fun as long as you find some creative fulfillment in it yourself. But it's such a long time to get that reaction from other people. Like it's you can really get in your own head about it.
Exactly.
Whereas at least if you're sort of collaborating, there's also sort of some shared responsibility with whether it like does well or not. Like you're like, well, it's not just me.
It's totally a lot less pressure. Yeah. It's like all the pressure's on the showrunner or the creator. You know? So you can be a lot more light about, carefree about working on it and when it's released than when like, for example, when the second one was released, I felt so much pressure to have it sell so that I could continue.
I'm about to ask some questions about Last Mermaid, but just for my audience, I want to put on your radar one book that I really liked by Derek. It's 3 separate stories that are published together. It was a collaboration with Jean Yun Lang, sorry, excuse me. The Eternal Smile. Oh, look at that! I'm sorry, I couldn't even quite see that so well. But yeah, you've got like some
that's
Jean Yun Lang stuff right
and then
there.
This is the character from Eternal Smile, Duncan.
Duncan.
Kingdom. Yeah.
Heartbreaking. You guys like tugged at my strings, but it also really showed me you've got a lot of versatility in terms of what you are doing with your artwork, which translates a little to this because you've done it, an illustrated style. You've done sort of a more painterly style. I am curious specifically on The Last Mermaid, like how are you creating like some of these pieces? Is this like digital? Is this watercolors? Like what is this that I'm looking at on these pages? Because it's really lush and beautiful. I'll try to find a nice page that I can show people. Like there's a lot of like beautiful like color that pops there.
Yeah, thank you. It's
what are you doing for that?
Crayola crayons. No, I'm just kidding. It's pure digital. It's pure digital, and I got switched into digital from when I got into animation. So before I got into animation, it was all pen and paper. And then once I got to animation, like nobody uses paper anymore in that industry anymore because that's pretty wasteful, to be honest. And it's much faster to be digital. And
that makes sense.
So I got so used to just being digital all the time, drawing digitally, and then I found that it was much faster, at least for me. And like in Eternal Smile, for example, I painted all in watercolor, and it took forever. If I had actually done The Last Mermaid as with real watercolors, I think I'd still be working on it. It's just so slow.
That's fair.
With like the regular media. So making it digital made it much faster.
It's gorgeous. Folks, one thing I love in a story, and I'm saying this to you as well, Derek, I love when the protagonist is really on their back foot, like the stakes are against them just in general. And I don't want to spoil anything yet, but The Last Mermaid, I mean, like a lot of it is the premise. We've got a mermaid and she's clearly in a mech suit. She has to cross a post-apocalyptic, Mad Max-esque sandy desert. And I mean, what could be more dangerous for a dweller of the sea?
Exactly. Yeah.
I saw in your notes in the back how when you were sort of like developing this, it was basically during the pandemic, you had a little more time to yourself. But like what was the impetus for a mermaid and putting her in so much danger and like or also just like were there any specific influences? I'll try to specify my question. Were there any specific influences that inspired you to combine these sort of post-apocalyptic with something fantasy like Mermaid?
Even something as seemingly unconnected as like Little Mermaid actually did, I think, have an influence on me, because Little Mermaid was huge for me when I first saw it. And Chris, we're like probably around the same age. You probably remember at that time, Disney's films were like so bad, and then Little Mermaid came out, and it was like just amazing.
Huge creative resurgence for Disney.
Totally.
That movie was an incredible step up from where they'd been.
Totally, and it blew me away. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, "Whoa, this is the Disney movie. This is so good." So, and then I love movies like A Splash. Is another the Tom Hanks movie with the mermaid. So I've always liked mermaid stories, but I've never seen a mermaid story that's sci-fi. You always see them either in a fantasy setting, a fairy tale setting, or a modern day setting, but you never see them in a sci-fi setting. So I thought, first of all, that's really cool. But the original idea, and I've said this before a few times, so sorry if anybody it's boring anyone, but I saw this documentary or a news coverage thing about Rumspringa.
Yeah.
Which is that Amish tradition. If nobody knows, it's an Amish tradition where they get to go out for a year and see the outside world for a year and come back to the Amish community. And then I don't know why.
Or not, just to be clear, like it's their chance to see, yes, the outside world and confirm that they want to be a member of their community, or if not, good luck, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. This is how weird my mind is. The first thing where my mind went was, what if mermaids had that? What if mermaids had one night where they could go into the surface world, see the surface world, and then they have to come back? And then I thought if they had to do that, they would need a machine that they would all each take a turn using.
Right.
And it would be this kind of like mech that they could walk out on the land with. So that was the one germ of the idea. And then I always wanted to do Mad Max is like one of my biggest influences, one of my favorite films.
Okay, so that was intentional to a degree,
Totally.
like the whole sandy desert. I definitely got Mad Max vibes, but I'll let you go back to it. Yeah, cool.
For sure. And I always loved Mad Max. I always wanted to do a post-apocalyptic story. I also love this role-playing game called Gamma World. It's made by the same people as Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh.
But this role-playing game is set in a post-apocalyptic world where there's cybernetic animals, cybernetic people, there's mutants. It's just like everything a boy could want, you know, like a 12-year-old could want. And I remember loving that role-playing game. And it's also very Mad Maxy, but it's like Mad Max on steroids, you know, because of all the extra things that are in it. And so I always wanted to do the post-apocalyptic story. Oh yeah, Gamma World fans, yes.
Apparently a few people definitely know that, yes.
Awesome. So I kind of wanted that, and then I was thinking, you know, when I was thinking of making a post-apocalyptic story, I was like, what can I, it's been done so many times, like what can I do to make it different? And what can I do to make the stakes even worse? Because in a post-apocalyptic landscape, it's already so bad, but for a mer person, it'd be like 100 times worse because there's no water, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it would be really cool to combine the two and have a story.
I love it. I love it. You know, thinking of animation, I love Ratatouille, and it's like, where is the place a rat would be least welcome? You know, in a kitchen. Exactly. It's like, where would be like the least hospitable environment for a mermaid, and you're putting her in there. And she's just likable because she seems so innocent. She's got a little friend, Lottie, that's swimming around in that like bubble with her. Is that like an axolotl or something like?
Yeah.
What is this guy?
It's an axolotl.
Yeah.
And
it's very cute.
I discovered them a few years ago, and I just thought they're like a living emoji, smiling emoji. It's crazy. So I had to use it, and I wanted, because the world is so dark and her situation's so dire, I felt like they needed some spark of light in there, and you know, Lottie serves that purpose, I think.
That's cool. I like that. I like that. Let me loop back to something I started talking about, which is how you've been able to play with format, because you did webcams, you've done traditional comics in some styles, and we talked slightly about this at the convention. But if we look at this, just to be clear, folks, look at that. That is a square comic, roughly. That is not, you know, for instance, the standard sort of size. This is square. And I just thought it was interesting. Would you be willing to share a little bit about how you ended up in that sort of format? I think it works, but I'd love to share that.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm actually kind of nervous about that because I heard a lot of stores, it's a hassle for them to shelve that. But it wasn't to drive them crazy or anything. It was just purely me just coming from film and then back to comics, because what happened was during the pandemic, when it first started, I wanted to a lot of axolotl fans, awesome.
People like axolotl.
How can you not like an axolotl? It's impossible.
Very cute.
Yeah, but I started it actually as a storyboard, just for fun. I wanted to do storyboards just for myself, so I started it in that 16:9 format that we had at work. We used a program called Storyboard Pro, and you know, it's like those ratios are already built in. So I just started working on that, and then I just kept going on the story. And then after a while, I did 4 parts as an animatic, which take forever because you have to kind of animate them a little bit.
Just giving people an idea of the sort of like square, well, more rectangular format that like, I didn't mean to talk over you, but like obviously that wouldn't quite have been easy to adapt into the standard dimensions. So, but you did an animatic?
Yeah, so I did an animatic. You can see it on my YouTube page or Instagram page, and it's I did 4 parts. It only goes up to about the half the first issue, but it has sound, it has music, and voices, but just it's storyboard format, so the art's not like all painted, but you can like watch it and listen to it. But after a while, it was taking up all my time, and then at a certain point, I was like, I gotta make money. I can't just keep living off of likes, So so I decided, okay, let's make this into a comic, and I'll pitch it to Image. But by that point, I had already done so much work in that 16:9. I tried to fit it into a comic page, and the panels became like so tiny. It was like really hard to see. So I was like, unless I like reformat every single panel, I'm gonna have to like widen it. So that was the only reason why I did this format this way. It wasn't any grand design idea or anything.
I like it, but then of course maybe I'm biased towards liking something that's a little off the beaten page. I like seeing people play with the medium of comics to see what it can do. For me, I thought it read very nicely, actually. I think it works very well.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
But yeah, and by the way, because of this sort of slightly longer format, folks, I'm just going to hint at this, but like you get some double page splashes that really set the scene in a very cinematic way, to be honest, and that's a nice thing sometimes.
Oh, cool. Yes.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
I'm excited to show you. I really value your opinion and watching all the reviews. So yeah, I would love to know what you think.
I try to be very honest with my opinions on this show. And I sincerely liked it.
Cool.
Image sends me PDFs, folks, like preview things.
Cool.
I'm sure they send them. So I had seen this, but it was really nice to hold in my hands. I think it's a great presentation.
Cool.
I wanted to have you on because folks, just to be clear, comes out this Wednesday. So this is this week. This is this week. And, Image Comics. So that I'm happy for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Now you're back in comics. Like, can we expect you to develop any more ideas in comics, or is it going to be for now just like Last Mermaid, and then we have to be patient, or what?
As long as I can keep making a living. I mean, I'm happy to just be in comics for some of my life. I'm so happy to be back in comics and telling my own stories again. And Chris, when I discovered your videos and I was watching them while I was drawing, it really reignited my love of comics again. And I think you do that for a lot of people. And it really like inspired me and kept me going, and just made me remember like what I originally started doing this for in the first place. You know what I mean? Those feelings that we got reading those comics that you're reviewing, that's the same kind of feelings that I wanted to present to the next generation. So
thank you. I will accept the compliment. As I get older, I've learned not to deflect all that stuff. You need to value the person's opinion. That's really, really kind of you, though. I'm also humbled.
Also, it's just great entertainment too. Like I remember I think the first one I found was the one where you were eating the chili peppers for every show.
It was early on.
Yeah, and I was like,
I was playing with the format.
Yeah,
just talking about what we do. I was playing with the format back then.
And I'd never seen any comics video like that. It was so eye-catching. And then I remember the one where you started taking shots, and I was genuinely scared for you in that video. You were getting more and more drunk, and by the end, your words were slurring, and oh my god, it was amazing.
I know. So let me let some folks in behind the scenes, because I phased that out because a lot of people were like, oh, you're drinking too much, Chris, I worry about you. Also, like people saying like, hey, you're going to like influence others. And I was like, okay, just to be clear, I was doing it more as like a gag. And when I was like having those shots, I wasn't actually always drinking all of it. I usually had alcohol there, but I wasn't like having as much as it sort of implies on the show. It was acting.
And then spitting? Were you spitting?
Not spitting so much as like sometimes like I'd like take like half the shot and the shot cuts. If you look closely, you could, if you don't see me like literally drinking it, I wasn't. Is all I can sort of say. So, but like I thought about that after a while, and I was like, I think it's funny if someone like gets a little buzzed. I really did get buzzed once or twice in the early things to give sort of an unfiltered opinion. And then I started like going like, well, maybe I'm not like, I don't know if I want this to also be my gimmick that like every single week I'm drinking. Like that gets dangerous. That gets dangerous.
would have killed
Well,
you.
thank you, Derek.
And also, I just want to mention one last thing, Chris. That part where you got stuck in the stairwell, I felt so bad for you, and it was such a situation. I'd never seen that before. It was so funny.
That was real, folks.
It was like out of a 30 Rock episode or something.
It was at Emerald City Comic-Con, which we just
both went to. Right.
But it was in the old building that they had.
Gotcha,
it was like 2 years ago, maybe. And I was excited because I really like Daniel Warren Johnson, and he was going to do a limited number of like sort of commissions. I forget what he called them, but like sketches for like the first few people that showed up. And I knew that it would be popular. And I'm like, I better be clever. I'm going to go up the back stairwell and I'll get up before like everybody going on the escalator.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. And instead, folks, I went into like the stairwell. The doors lock behind you. There's no air conditioning. I was sweltering, and I'm like pounding on the door, and no one answers because it's these thick steel doors. They're like super thick. No one could hear. I had to call the convention center, and they had to send a security guard to get me out. I was so embarrassed. I cost myself a lot of time.
That was crazy, man. That was so crazy.
Thank you for bringing that back, though, because I now that time has passed, that's like that cracks me up that I did that.
Yeah,
not smart.
I always worry about that now when I go to convention. I'm like, don't go through any doors. Just take the elevator.
Stay with the crowds, folks.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're gonna get trapped. That's so exciting. Do you have any other conventions or anything planned for 2024?
Yes. I'm trying to do as many conventions as I can. I'm gonna do Chicago next, C2E2.
Great.
The same people that run Emerald City Comic Con kind enough to let me come to Reed kind enough to let me come to Chicago, and then I'm going to try to go to New York Comic Con. Which
you are going to be at New York.
I'm going to go. I mean, I don't know if
I always go to New York.
Right. Even if they don't have me, I'll go. And I've never been. So I really.
Oh, really? It's a spectacle. I mean, have you gone to San Diego before?
Of course, I've been to Chicago. Yeah. I've been going to San Diego since.
It's a huge scale. So it's sort of like, I don't know about you. I love some of the indie Comic Cons, like Small Press Expo and things like Mocha and Ape. I love those because it's intimate and you get to have like some conversations and discover new things. But sometimes it is fun to go to the gigantic conventions because it's like the cosplay and like, you know, all the big names come out. Yeah. It's fun.
I love both too. Used to be when I was younger, I was kind of more veered toward the artsy ones, but nowadays, now that I'm older, I love all of it. I love everything. You know, I just love the enthusiasm and there's no pretension. You know, at the big ones, like everyone's just geeking out, and I love that energy. It's great. I love it.
So Chicago and New York, we can probably
Chicago and New York. I did talk to Fan Expo for Denver, so I might be at Denver. And I'm going to try to go to Baltimore. My brother lives in Baltimore. So.
Oh, that would be great. That's a really nice convention. I lived in DC for like 10 years, and I would go to Baltimore. Baltimore puts on a really lovely convention where it's like big, but the focus, I feel, has always remained very much on comics.
That's what I heard. It's just very comics centric, which is great.
So cool.
And and of course, San Diego. I've been going to San Diego since I was like a young teenager, like early teen, maybe even in grade school, because my grandma lived in San Diego. And it was a big, fun trip every year. We would go to visit my grandma, and then me and my brother, and then we would go to San Diego Comic Con. Yeah, those are great times. And then of course, San Diego. Oh,
look at that! Yeah, Jim Mafood says that he'll be in New York too, and he'd love to say hi.
I'd love to meet you, man. I love your work. Thank you so much.
Jim's a great guy.
Yeah, he seems like it. And also, to answer your previous question about being in comics, actually, I have another comic already signed up with Image, and it'll be coming out early next year in April. Really? And it's called Royals, and it's a standalone graphic novel. And Chris, I'm actually really curious what you're going to think, because I know you love crime comics.
I do.
And it's my first crime keeper. And, it's about twin brothers who are telepathically connected, and they use their power to con poker games, and then they get caught, and it's everything goes to crap. And and I'm really excited about it. And I got this artist name, Jacob Perez is going to be drawing it, and he is a phenomenal artist. Check out his Instagram. You can check out the sample of Royals we put up on my Instagram and on his as well. And it takes place in Seoul, and he just it's like you're there the way you drew.
Okay.
It. Incredible. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I'd love to visit like Seoul, but yeah, like that's so exciting. I do love crime comics. So yes, I'm like you tell me the premise, I'm already fairly intrigued. I enjoy, you know, like the poker sort of movies too. And that there was that book about the MIT students that were like counting cards. I forget the title of the book now.
Yeah, and it was also made into a movie. 21,
I guess,
or
I think it was something like that anyway.
Yeah.
It was good. It was a real life story, folks. They were going to like they were MIT students. They would go down to Atlantic City, and these were all mathematicians that were using their big brains. Poker is like the one game that you can legit like have an edge over the house if you practice.
That's true.
Depending on how many decks they pull out. But that's an interesting wrinkle, adding telepathy. I'm definitely intrigued. That's exciting.
Okay, cool.
And so you're writing that one.
Yes.
And what was the artist name one more time?
Artist name is Jacob Perez, and it's actually his first graphic novel, but he's done a lot of work in animation. He actually does the character designs on the new Ninja Turtle show that's coming out. Based on the recent movie. And yeah, he's a phenomenal artist, and I can't believe this is his first comic. It's so good. The pages are so good. I can't wait for you to see it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but he's
just told me, like I was saying poker. I definitely obviously meant blackjack. Folks are correcting me what I was saying.
Right.
That's what I'm getting wrong. But you're saying they play poker. I was conflating it with blackjack. I'm an idiot. I've ruined the interview. We were having such a good vibe.
Yeah.
Ruined
it.
Hey,
I didn't catch it either, so you can't blame yourself, Chris.
Yeah, I shared responsibility. This is both of our shows. Half the fault is this guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Where can folks keep up with you? Because I know you've got a few social channels, but like that would probably be a good way to, you know, like for them to catch up on, you know, your upcoming books and stuff. What channels do you want to mention?
Yeah, actually, all I have is Instagram and Threads. I just recently joined Threads. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a lot of people use it, but I'm on both of those things.
There's a good comics community on Threads, is what I'll say. Okay. You're right. Like it's not like a massive sort of amount of people like Twitter, but I think it's a little more positive so far. Threads.
Oh, cool. That's great to hear. That's one of the reasons I avoid Twitter. So, yeah.
And it's just Derek Kirk Kim, right? On Insta and Threads.
Yep, it's just my name, Derek Kirk Kim. Yep.
And then you've got like you said you uploaded to YouTube the animatic, right?
Yeah, there's 4 parts of The Last Mermaid. The animatic version is up there. Yeah.
I'll put that in the description, folks, once I wrap up the show, just so that you've got an easy link to use. Derek, thank you for the kind words, but like thank you also for like, you know, just sharing some of this history with you. I'd love to keep in touch and see what happens by the time Last Mermaid wraps up and Royals starts up. That would be really nice.
Oh, speaking of which, Last Mermaid is probably going to go about 25 to 30 issues. Granted, the sales are okay.
Oh, so this is a bigger story than I realized. No kidding. Thank you for adding that. I honestly was thinking this was like a shorter term sort of thing. Oh, so you've got a big world to flesh out here.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty big. It's like the biggest thing I've tackled so far, and I'm really excited to hopefully get to the end this time. I really hope.
I hope so. I hope so. We do comic quick like reviews here, and sometimes things lose me, even when I respect the creators. But so far, I absolutely really love it, and I'm glad that you were able to swing by and talk about it with us.
Thanks so much, Chris. Really appreciate me being here, and I'm such a fan. It's so cool just to be on this side.
I'm a fan too, so it's mutual, and just feel better, because I know you said you were feeling like congested or something. So feel better. But thank you so much, Derek, on behalf of all of us here in the chat. Like I can see a lot of positive comments. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you everybody watching. I've actually joined you once live, just watching, and
thank you.
There's so many nice people in there. So I double salute all of you. Thank you.
Double salute. Thank you, Derek. Take care. Have a great night.
Okay, bye.
Bye.